Sometimes, it could get really distracting. You could just fall off, and you love the attention, you love the accolades, so it could just get into you. So most times you have to, every second, every time, you need to channel your attention, your focus back to Jesus.
Hello, and you're welcome. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of 12DG Between the Scenes. With me, I have the amazing minister, Esther Oji. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
What a powerful ministration. It was electric. Maybe let's start there. I'd be interested to know, with the build-up of that sort of performance, how is it that what you do, where do you draw from? What helps you to ensure that when you minister, there is a move of the Spirit at every ministration?
Okay, thank you very much. And all glory is actually to God, because the Holy Spirit actually helps me every time. So one of the things I've learned is to always stay in the Spirit, always be in the Spirit. So I've made it a culture. I've made it part of my life to, pray as often as I can, to also study the word, listen to pastors' messages, and also I worship with pastors' worship sessions. There's one particular one I use a lot, and so many other things like that. And the most important thing is I always try to make sure I keep the right atmosphere around me every single day. So even when I have events, when I have programs to minister, I'm already in that mood, because I already see myself as a priest.
Yeah.
So I carry myself in that manner. So when I have such programs, I make sure I make declarations. I remind myself of who I am, and for the fact that I'm anointed for this. Because most times it could be, fear could, try to shake you. So I tend to remind myself every day, making declarations. I use scriptures, declare words, and remind myself that I'm anointed for this. And I always summon angels to help, because I actually can't do it by my strength. So I think that's basically.
That's powerful. And you're also part of the COZA City Music Group.
Yes,
and that's phenomenal. And at the same time, you're a global recording artist with a really busy schedule.
Yes.
How do you balance all of that and at the same time be able to keep a spiritual life that makes your ministry so effective?
Okay, so first of all, I know who I am. And like I said, I carry myself like a priest, and I'm very conscious of my atmosphere. So it's like a lifestyle. I try to make it a lifestyle. So whenever I get the chance to be in church, fortunately, I get to be given a little break, especially when I come back from programs outside. So I just rest before I resume work. And I just try to put myself in it, because it's something I love. So I just enjoy anything music, anything worship, I just enjoy it. So I try to put myself in it as much as I can. And it's actually very easy. I don't know. The Holy Spirit makes it so easy, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah. And it's lovely to hear that you enjoy doing it. I think about the amount of fame and glory that must come out of this, because as we said earlier, you are a global recording artist.
Yes.
And you've talked about, your deep connection with the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
But can you tell us, how do you prevent yourself from getting distracted from that fame and from that glory?
Okay, so I try as much as possible to listen and obey the instructions of my senior pastors, because they actually help a lot. Yeah. So most times when I return, I go to greet mommy, I go to greet daddy. And mommy always has an instruction for me for what to do next. Yeah. So every time it guides me. So whenever I get a little distracted, when I come back home, I get back on track. She just has a way, especially, after sessions we have with mommy and all of that, and messages I hear, because sometimes I also stream service, even though sometimes it's not easy, because service might clash with maybe the event I have and all of that. But as much as possible, I try to go back to my base, because I am actually under a covering that is very, very fireful. So it just keeps me going. So every time I feel like I'm losing touch, even before I don't even have to wait to feel like it. I try to stay connected, because something Pastor always says. He says the branch of a tree doesn't need to do anything to bear fruit. All it has to do is just stay connected, and that's what I try to do as much as possible. And
absolutely, and it reminds me of that thing that Pastor says, that if you step in the places where giants have stepped, then you become a giant yourself. So that's really powerful. And maybe finally, what word of inspiration would you have for maybe other young upcoming artists that are looking at you and wanting to emulate or be like you, and at the same time, going for ministry and ministration the way you do, but at the same time ensuring they have an effective spiritual life?
Okay, so one of the things I would like to advise them is to know who they are representing. They're representing Jesus. It's all about Jesus. It's not about, because sometimes, it could get really distracting. You could just fall off, and you love the attention, you love the accolades, so it could just get into you. So most times you have to, every second, every time, you need to channel your attention, your focus back to Jesus. And most importantly, also have a covering, a spiritual covering, have a family, a spiritual family. So it's easier that way, because you keep drawing from them. You don't need to do much, because that's what happens with me. I don't need to do much. So most times the grace of my senior pastors is even what speaks for me. Most people that, sent for me, that invited me, most of them knew me from COZA TV, watching COZA TV. And some of them also mentioned, I remember one of the pastors said that he actually loves me because I'm submitted to a man of God. Another pastor also told me that he actually loves, what endeared him to me was the fact that on my Instagram status, I think my Instagram handle, I indicated I'm Phoebe's daughter. So he said that alone intrigued him, and he was like, wow. So I try to, as much as possible, know who I am and where I'm coming from. And I'm proud of my senior pastors. I'm proud of my coverings. I try to make sure I learn and I draw from them. So it's always easier that way. And consistently listen to the word, pray, and also have times of worship personally, because one thing Mommy D always taught me was, don't come and lead people in worship when you've not worshipped behind the scene. So she instructed me to try at least 2 hours, have a time of worship personally. So you don't come acting what you don't do. Because leading people in worship, most times we see it like you could just get so comfortable and forget that you're actually doing this for a purpose and you're representing someone. So you begin to take the attention, and, glory could. So in order to stay in track, stay under a covering, and always remember that the Holy Spirit, Jesus, is the focus, and make him the focus, and you become the focus.
Yes, that's so powerful, Minister Esther. Thank you so much for sharing these nuggets of wisdom. They've been an inspiration to me, and I'm sure they're an inspiration to our viewers out there. And viewers, thank you for watching this edition of the 12DG Between the Scenes. Join us next time for another inspirational session. Until then, see you next time.